네, 안녕하세요. 터뜨리고요. 오늘은 또 새로운 게임을 가져왔어요. 스탠리. 뭐 어떤 게임인지는 잘 모르겠는데 일단 행동으로 보여주죠. 일단 한번 해봅시다. 퍼즐 게임이라고 들었는데 게임 소리를 좀 더
This
안...
is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked.
소리 엄청 큰데요? 엄청 큰데? 스탠리는 큰 건물이 있는 회사의 427번. 웅크리기도 있네. 아이템 사용. 웅크리기랑 움직이기, 아이템 사용 요거밖에 없네요. 내가 427번 사람이야. 감도도 겁나 빨라.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
회의실로 간대. 회의실. Where is 회의실? 길 겁나 복잡하게 돼 있네 이거.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
알았어. 그러니까 회의실로 가라는 얘기잖아. 죄송해요. 세팅 제대로 안 하고 시작해가지고. 웅크리기, 움직이기, 왼쪽 클릭.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
근데 왼쪽으로 난 오른쪽 갈래 그러면.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
저기 선택지였어? 말을 잘 듣느냐 아니면은 마이웨이로 그냥 확 가는 건가?
Yes, truly a room worth
이게
admiring.
선택지야?
It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
그런 거 치고는
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
비꼬고 있다 지금.
At this
비꼬고.
point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creep, but at last he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
이번엔 시킨 대로 해볼까?
And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
뭐야 열리네?
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
아, 여기 사장실이 있어? 여긴가벼?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him?
난 별로 안
What he could
궁금한데.
not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
자, 아, 이걸 날 가지고 노네. 스탠리는 알턱이 없죠 하면서 맞추지 말라는 뜻인가?
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
알턱이 없으니까 자꾸
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code
운이
by
좋죠?
sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
스탠리는 알턱이 없는데 운 좋게도 맞춰버렸네. 비밀번호를. 뭐야, 수상한데? 오 쉣. 괜히 왔나?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
대박이구만. 보통 그렇지 않나요? 뒷구멍 하나씩은 있어.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
에잇.
Although this passageway had the word escape Stanley thought better of it. The truth was realized that he simply had too much to Stanley would meet his violent death.
일로 가면 잔인한 죽음이 기다리고 있대. 궁금하지 않나요? 저장하는 게 없네. 아, 궁금한데? 아씨. 가봐? 끔찍한 죽음이 기다리고.
Still on board with death?
끔찍한 죽음. 조심하면서 가면 되지 않을까?
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
돌아갈 기회가 있대.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
잠깐만. 잠깐만. 뭐야? 제가 나중에 수정해드릴게. 살해.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was
제가 좀 수정해드릴게요,
loss,
이따가.
like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly
어떡하지?
accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
안돼! 안돼! 안돼!
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
살아나... 뭐야?
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
응? 끝이야? 뭐야, 다시 해야 돼? 끝난 거야? 뭐야? 와. 아. 시키는 대로 하자, 시키는 대로. 아, 또 처음부터 달라니까 또 귀찮. 또 그렇네.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
시작한 지 12분 만에 엔딩 봤다. 12분 만에 엔딩 봤어.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
네? 무슨
Yet
소리세요?
there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his
그래요?
boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
그것도 엔딩이 아니었어?
Coming
아,
to a
그런 거였어요?
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
몰랐지? 나는 끝난 줄 알았지? 아까 안 열렸는데? 잠깐만. 무서워, 씨. 문 닫지 마.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered
잘못 쳤는데?
aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paint. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the
나레이터가
narrator
대사를
talk.
단 1분조차
That kind of
허용하지 않았대.
anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming new age music.
흥분하지 말래. 비밀번호 너무 빨리 쳐가지고 흥분하지 말라면서 노래 들어주는데?
Feeling soothed
아,
and
마음이
rejuvenated,
달래졌다.
Stanley calmly walked forward
It's good.
into the opened passageway.
천천히. 마음이 참 편해졌어요. 자, 이제 진짜 제대로 해보자. 마음이 좀 안정됐다. 아까 그 노래 들어가지고. 어? 왜냐면 제가 방송 제목을 안 바꿨기 때문이죠. 했어요.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control
아, 일로
Facility.
가가지고 죽는 게 엔딩인데 내가 죽음을 안 보고 중간에 꺼버렸다 이거죠. 오케이. 오 쉣. 너무 높은데요 여기? 삐.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
끔찍한 비밀? 아 점프가 없구나. 점프가 없어.
Now the monitors jumped to life,
뭐야?
their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images
지켜보고
on a
있었던 거야?
screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. 이게 무슨 일이야? 내가 400 몇 번이었지? 요쯤에 있었다 이거죠.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
와씨 뭐지?
No.
No.
He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life
내
in
삶이
someone else's
누군가에게
control.
조종당하고 있었다고?
Never. It
절대
was
아니야.
unthinkable. Wasn't
Never.
it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
월드?
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
오케이. 퍼즐이라 이거지? 이게 버튼이 맞냐? 빨주노초 파남보가 주황색이 없는데요? 안 눌러지네? 이게 주황색. 이걸 주황색. 이건 뭐야? 일단은 저기 가볼까? 시스템 파워.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted?
아니, 잘못했어. 잘못했어. 장난이야, 장난이야.
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification,
이제
nuclear
진짜 장난 안
detonators are
친다.
set to explode, eliminating the
이거 엔딩
entire
보고
complex.
진짜 장난 안
How
치고
long
제대로
until
해봐야 돼.
detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. This
좀
is
시킨 대로
much
할게.
better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going,
잘못했어.
what all this means. I
시킨 대로 할게.
barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened.
1분밖에 안 남았는데.
I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office
한 번?
forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground,
1분밖에 안
swallowing
남았는데.
everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing.
야.
Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich.
Oh no.
I almost hate to see it
Help
go.
me.
But I'm sure
Help me,
whatever I
please.
come up with on the
Oh my
next go
gosh.
around will be even better.
Help.
My goodness, only 34
Help.
seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much.
즐겁지
You know
않아.
what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the
시간
clock.
준대.
Why not?
에?
These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off?
여기서 뭔가 할 수 있는 게
I mean,
아니었어?
look at you, running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room.
어떻게 알았어?
These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones, or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is?
웃지 말고.
Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along.
뭐지?
It's just seconds ticking away.
1번
to your
눌리라는데?
death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this
Oh my
world,
gosh.
that's fine. But I'm going to
shoot.
destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look
부숴버린대.
at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle.
Oh.
30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here. Just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life
아니야,
from the
이건 아니야.
moment we fade in until the moment I say,
아하. 안 돼.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it
자,
mean?
안녕하세요 여러분.
Stanley
터뜨리고요.
decided to go to the meeting
오늘은
room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
스탠리 새로운 게임을 가져왔어요. 어떤 게임인지 다들 궁금하시죠? 한번 플레이하면서
When Stanley
보여드릴게요.
came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
자, 시키는 대로 한번 해보죠.
Yet there was not a single
일단
person
점프가
here
없어요.
either.
점프
Feeling a
없고요.
wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office,
지금
hoping he
사장실,
might find an
사장실로
answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during
이
work
청개구리
hours.
성격
He might be
미치겠다.
fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished?
아, 시키는
His
대로 할
boss
걸
would
그냥.
think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors
뭐야?
close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at
무한반복의
last,
세계야,
he
지금.
came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
진짜.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself?
진짜 말 잘
Stanley
들을게 이제.
is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
말
Now,
잘
hearing
들을게.
the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley.
진짜 이제 반항 안
After
할게.
all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt,
끝내줘, 이제,
that this
제발.
was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This
끝내줘.
voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream.
나를
So
이제
he closed his
끝내줘.
eyes gently,
내가
and he
잘못했어.
invited himself to wake up.
안 돼.
He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin,
스탠리.
the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please. It's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
I am okay.
Stanley began screaming.
뭐야,
Please,
일어난 거
someone
아니었어?
wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just
제발.
someone tell me I am real.
끝내줘.
I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
어?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that
아유,
moment,
진짜.
she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind.
말 안
I know
들으면
what is real
어떤
and
결과가
what
오는지
isn't. It was comforting
잘
to think
느꼈다.
this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
진짜 엔딩 제조기야 무슨. 아, 알겠습니다. 말 잘 들을게요. 이제 허튼 짓 안 하겠습니다. 제가 잘못했어요. 시킨 대로 하겠습니다. 잘하겠습니다.
When Stanley came to a set of two
왼쪽으로
open doors,
가겠습니다.
he entered the door on his left.
네, 알겠습니다.
Yet there was not a single
네,
person here
없습니다.
either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his
사장실로
boss's
가겠습니다.
office. Coming to a
죄송합니다.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
내려가 보라고? 아, 아까랑 또 달라져 있나? 그래, 내가 엔딩을 봤으니까 좀 달라져 있겠지? 아닌데? 안 달라져 있는데?
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of
저기요.
facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours.
신하님?
He might be fined for that. And in such a
이게 어떻게
competitive
된-
economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he
저기요?
was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley.
저 어떡하죠?
Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy.
문이 닫혔어요.
All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment
안
for no
돼.
reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley
자, 말 안 들으면 어떻게 되는지
How wonderful.
아시겠죠, 여러분? 어? 이게 뭐야 이게? 게임이 날 거부해. 엔딩 너무 많이 해서 그런가? 말 안 들어서 그런가? 아니, 말 잘 들을게요. 아, 원래 막혀 있었어야 된다고?
all of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
말 잘 듣겠습니다.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
하여튼 안 알겠습니다.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
아까 전전판은 저장이 안 됐나? 그러면? 아침 컴퓨터가 꺼졌잖아. 아, 그 게임이
Stepping into his
꺼졌잖아.
manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single
버텨볼걸.
minute to just let the
아,
narrator talk.
버텨볼걸.
That kind of anxiety isn't healthy. So
아.
he relaxed for a few moments
생각이
with
너무
some
급했다.
calming new age music.
그럴 걸 그랬나 봐. 아, 버텨볼걸. 시청하시는 분들은 한번 버텨보시길 바랍니다.
Feeling soothed
저는
and rejuvenated,
비록 성격이
Stanley
급해서
calmly
버티지
walked
못했지만
forward into the opened passageway.
여러분은 버텨보세요. 재미나대요. 난 이미 시작했어.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar.
난 몰라.
It
여러분
was a
해보세요.
stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
다시 한번 와서 버텨보라고? 이미 갔잖아요. 아, 게임 재시작해서 버텨보라고?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
아, 엔딩 보고? 아.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
저요?
Now the
저
monitors jumped to life. Their true
충청도요.
nature revealed. Each bore the number
지금은
of an
충청도에
employee
있지.
in the
충청
building.
여기가
Stanley's co-workers. The
충남인가?
lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant
충남인가 봐.
nothing.
충남. 제가 충남이라 했을걸. 충남이라 하고 내가 대전 가깝다고 했던 것 같은데.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true.
충남.
Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he
지역?
was happy
혹시
with his
몰라서
boring
혹시나
job? That his
아는 사람이
emotions
볼까 봐.
had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
아는 사람이 볼까 봐.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
아니요. 1시간 반이 아니고.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content.
솔직히
Walking,
상관은
eating,
없는데
working, all of it monitored and
아는
commanded
사람이
from this
볼까 봐
very
그랬지.
place. And as the cold reality of
천안이에요,
his
천안.
past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would
세종이 아니고
never
천안.
again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
자, 여기서 아름다운 선택을 해보자. 뭐야? 말 안 거네? 왜 말 안 걸지? 밖에서 좀 깨작깨작 대 나와야 되나? 아니에요. 원래 장기침이 많아요. 원래 기관지가 안 좋아. 아닙니다. 걱정하지 마세요. 아니고요. 원래 말 안 거나? 어쨌든 꺼버렸지. 시키는 대로 잘하니까 나는. 설마 이것도 엔딩이야? 끝났나 벌써?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
이것도 엔딩이라고요?
He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's
Whoa.
command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened,
자유가 얼마 남지
Stanley
않았어.
reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved.
뭐야?
Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold?
문
But
열리고
as
있어.
sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this
Wow.
mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but
아름답다.
happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would
Wow,
anyone tell him where to
아름답다.
go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley
와.
felt the cool breeze upon his skin,
시원해.
the
이
feeling of
바람,
liberation,
공기, 그리고
the
하늘.
immense possibility of the new path before him.
자유롭게
This
떠다니는
was
둥둥
exactly the way,
떠다니는 구름,
right now,
그리고 저 산,
that things were
식물,
meant to happen.
그리고 돌,
And
바람,
Stanley
새.
was happy.
죽인다 그냥. 행복하네요. 이렇게 엔딩스? 끝이에요? 뭐야? 자꾸 게임이 꺼져? 게임 끝났으니까 꺼지라 이건가? 자, 그러면 오케이, 마지막 뻗땡기기 한번 해봅시다. 여러분들이 궁금하신
All of his
뻗땡기기.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
일단 회의실 갑니다.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief,
엔딩은
Stanley decided to go up to
그
his
버팅기는
boss's
것까지만
office,
합시다.
hoping he might
나머지는
find an answer
여러분들이
there.
알아서 한번 해보세요. 어떤 게 있나? 내가 다 보여줄 순 없지. 문 못 닫게 하기. 자, 여기 알지? 가봤지 과거에.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
여기를 내 문 한 번도 안 열어봤네. 안 열리는구나.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned
또
it
다른
an
그게 있나 봐,
extra
또.
secret pin number, 2845.
2,
But of
8, 4,
course,
5.
Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
그래, 스탠리는 모르지. 일단 비밀번호를. 모르니까 나는 비밀번호에 대한
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
2845. 웅크리기는 왜 있는 거야 도대체?
2845.
2845. 약간 화났는데? 미니님 어서오세요. 약간 화났어. 시키는 대로 안 한다고. 284.
But it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
지 알아서 문 열어주는구나. 아. 내레이션 좀 잘했네. 좀 귀엽다. 아 제발. 아 제발 긴급으로 작동됩니다.
Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never
샤노레님
occurred to
어서
him?
오세요.
This question would not go unanswered for long.
그거는 상관없지 않을까요? 이건 아무 상관없을걸요? 다른 엔딩 안 보려면 끄라고요?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
그렇지. 다른 엔딩이라. 일로 가서 아까 끝난 게 다 본 거예요 엔딩?
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn
돌아갈
around and
기회가
get
있어요.
back on track.
돌아갈 기회가 있어요.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
요거는 참 으아! 근데 이거 뭐 하는 데지 여기는? 도대체?
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise.
이게 왜
He
눌리는 거야,
reflected
이거?
that his life had been of
왜
no
짜부시키는 거지?
consequence whatsoever.
왜
Stanley
압축시키는
can't
거죠?
see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in
무슨
his
공장이야,
narrow
이거?
vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and
Oh my
willingly
gosh.
accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life.
코앞이다.
Farewell, Stanley.
와!
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body.
어이구. 게임이 꺼졌네요. 아, 그러면은 스탠리는 여기까지 하고 엔딩 뭐 여러 가지 있네요. 시청해 주셔서 감사해요. 안녕.